This will be for the Khan Academy exercise, limits using conjugates. So a quick definition for conjugate, that is just when you change the plus minus sign between two terms. So just briefly, let's say you had A plus B. The conjugate would just be A minus B. And the advantage of that is that if you take these two terms and multiply those together, you will not get an inner-outer term. They will cancel out. So if you use FOIL and you did A times A, you would get A squared. And the inner term would be positive B times A, or AB. The outer term would be A times negative B, or negative AB. And the last term would be B times negative B, or negative B squared. Okay, so because you did for the inner outer, you get AB and negative AB. You add these together, they cancel. So when you multiply the binomial by its conjugate, the inner outer term drops out. All right, so here we want to find the limit as x approaches 1. Now, if you try direct substitution and plug in a 1 wherever you see an x, you're going to get 0 over 0. So we can't just leave it like that. All right, so we basically have a square root minus 3. We're going to multiply that by the conjugate. All right, and really we're going to do the conjugate over itself. So keep radical 5x plus 4. And instead of minus 3, we're going to change that minus sign to a plus. So it's going to be plus 3. Okay? Whatever you multiply on the numerator, you want to multiply on the denominator as well. So just write the same thing in the denominator. Okay? The same term divided by itself is just 1. And I'm allowed to multiply by 1. So let's see. We're basically multiplying fractions here. So let's start with numerator times numerator. Radical 5x plus 4 times radical 5x plus 4 is just going to be 5x plus 4. Okay, recall that if you have the square root of x and you multiply that times the square root of x, you just remove the square root. Now the inner outer term should drop out. We have negative 3 times radical 5x plus 4 plus positive 3 times radical 5x plus 4. So that drops out, like I showed you in the intro. And then the last term is negative 3 times positive 3, which is just negative 9. In the numerator, we're going to use FOIL once again. All right. So first term is going. Now, in the denominator, you actually just want to leave these two terms alone. So just rewrite the x minus 1 and radical 5x plus 4 plus 3. All right. In the numerator, we have plus 4 minus 9. That's going to be minus 5 when we combine those two. Now, since we have 5x minus 5 in the numerator, we can factor that out. Okay, I'll do it in a different color. 5x minus 5, the greatest common factor is 5. Okay, and 5x divided by 5 is x. Negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. If you want to double check, 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. So we rewrote the numerator. Okay, and now we can cancel. We have x minus 1 divided by x minus 1. And we only have a 5 left in the numerator. And the denominator is going to be radical 5x plus 4 plus 3. And now, at this point, we can use direct substitution, okay? So we can take the x, since x is approaching 1, we can just plug that in right there. That's going to give us 5 divided by the square root. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So it's just the square root of 9 plus 3. Let me fix the color. All right, the square root of 9 is just 3. And we're left with 3 plus 3 in the denominator, so that's just going to be 5 over 6. Final answer. Answer B. All right, here we have x approaching -4. Once again, if you use direct substitution at this point and plug in -4, you'll get 0 over 0. So once again, we're going to multiply by the conjugate over itself. All right, so we're going to take this whole fraction and multiply it by 1. Okay, so use the conjugate, radical 3x plus 13. And instead of -1, it's going to be
8 o'clock.
You do the same thing in the numerator. You multiply by the same thing over itself. It's going to be the same as multiplying by 1. Okay? Now, the numerator, you don't want to unpack it. It's just going to be a mess, so just leave it. All right, we have x plus 4. We have radical 3x plus 13. And that's plus 1. In the denominator, we're going to use FOIL. Okay, we have this times this. We're just multiplying denominators. So the first term, radical 3x plus 13 times radical 3x plus 13. You just remove the square root. That's 3x plus 13. Remember, we said it before. If you have the square root times the square root, and the same number is under that square root, you just remove the square root. You're left with x. Okay, the inner-outer term should drop. Inner is -1 times radical 3x plus 13. Outer is +1 times radical 3x plus 13. That drops. And the last term is going to be -1 times +1, which is just -1. Combining like terms, 13 minus 1 is going to be +12. And if we have 3x plus 12, we can factor out a 3. 3x divided by 3 is x. 12 divided by 3 is +4. All right, so we just rewrote this denominator right here. And now we can cancel. X plus 4 divided by x plus 4 is gone. And what do we have left? The limit as x approaches -4. Numerator, radical 3x plus 13 plus 1. Denominator, the only thing left is 3. Okay, if we take, now we can use direct substitution again, but we're not going to get 0 over 0 this time. You take the -4, you plug it in here. That's going to be -4 times 3, which is -12, plus 13 is 1. The square root of 1 is just 1. So we're left with 1 plus 1 over 3, which is just 2/3. All right, all I did was direct substitution. I took -4 and plugged it in there, and we end up with 2/3. All right, so why don't you pause and try this one, and I'll give you a hint. You want to multiply by the conjugate over itself. Okay, so this negative sign will be a positive sign, and this will be times the same thing in the denominator. And the inner outer term should drop out in the numerator. All right, so choosing the conjugate instead of the minus sign, we're going to make it a plus sign. So it's going to be 3 plus radical 5x minus 1. You want the same thing in the denominator. Because the same term over itself is 1. We're just multiplying by 1. All right, using FOIL. First is going to be 3 times 3, which is 9. The inner outer should drop. Negative radical 5x minus 1 times 3 plus positive times positive plus positive radical 5x minus 1 times 3. That drops. The last term, negative radical 5x minus 1 times positive radical 5x minus 1. The negative times positive makes it negative. When you multiply the square root by itself, you just remove the square root. In the denominator, x minus 2 and 3 plus radical 5x minus 1. All right, like we said before, there's no sense in expanding this part. In the numerator, the inner outer term drops out, but in the denominator, it's just going to make more of a mess, so just leave it. All right, so distributing the negative, we have negative 5x and negative times negative 1 is positive 1. All right, so we have negative 5x plus 1 plus 9, that's going to be plus 10. All right, so we want to factor this here. Hopefully we get x minus 2. So rewriting the numerator, if you see we have 5 and 10, the greatest common factor is 5. Might as well factor the negative 5 so the x is positive. Okay, so that's going to be negative 5. Negative 5x divided by negative 5 is x. 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. So this right here is the numerator. Top and bottom we can cancel x minus 2. And we have the limit as x approaches 2. On top we have negative 5. Bottom we have 3 plus radical 5x minus 1. And now we can use direct substitution. If we put a 2 in here, we have 5 times 2, which is 10, minus 1, that's 9. So this right here is just radical 9. Okay, negative 5 is in the numerator. Radical 9 is just 3. And 3 plus 3 is just 6. So we have negative 5 over 6.